Howdy folks, I'm Rick from the Luminary Shop. Thanks for dropping by. Last week I left you with most of the repairs and new parts made for a pair of Brewster lamps that I was working on, and they were just about ready to assemble. Well, I had intended to completely finish them this week, but you know, it's kind of tough to compress 50 or 60 hours into 3 20-minute videos. So I've decided to make that final video in the series next week, when I will demonstrate my philosophy and methods for painting and finishing a fine historic pair of carriage lamps. This week, we're going to finish all the repairs, the assemblies, and prepping the Brewster lamps for that final painting and finishing. So at the end of this video, you'll get to see what a pair of carriage lamps should look like under the paint. The first thing I'll do is remove this glass. You may remember that we were beyond this point earlier in the series of videos, but I left the glass so that I could do it all at the same time in one video. So at any rate, here I'm using a torch to melt the solder down the whole length of one side of the glass and then pulling the bezel back. Now, I have to be pretty careful about overheating the glass, because if it's heated unevenly, it is very susceptible to breaking or chipping or cracking. And this is antique glass, so I'd really like to save it and use it again. You might notice as you kind of look through this glass from the edge that it has a sort of yellowish greenish hue to it, as opposed to modern glass, which has a bluish green color. Now, the discerning carriage lamp collector will notice things like that. Just another reason to try to save that original glass. I'll mark each bezel and piece of glass as to which lamp and which position it should occupy. Here you can see where I've made little tick marks in the corners of the glass up on the edges in order to keep track of which piece of glass goes in which position on this pair. I'm going to take this glass to my friend Bob, who specializes in beveling and polishing the scratches out of glass. He'll be able to clean them up a lot, and hopefully to where you can't see any blemishes in the surface of the glass. This metal is in excellent condition, and so I'm going to be able to use a coarse brush on my bench motor to remove this old finish and some of the rust and so forth off these lamps. Now, if the metal wasn't in as good a condition as this, it's actually easier on it to use a sharp edged medium, such as sand in my sandblaster, to take the old finish off. This is a soldering iron that I more or less made from parts and pieces from a plumber's iron and an old torch handle. And I use oxygen and propane to heat it. It takes the tiniest little flame, maybe 3/32 of an inch long, to keep it hot and working well. I just got tired of replacing the electric ones that I seem to burn out weekly. It's been about 2 weeks that my friend Bob has had this glass, and he was able to polish out just about all of the little scratches and the major scratches and the edge chips that this glass had in it. You might notice as we work along here that you can see that greenish yellow tinge to the glass. These are the original bezels that I'm putting back on this glass. I always try to use the original parts as much as I can, and these bezels were in really good shape, so I can use them again. So I take note of which side of lamp that I have. This is the right side lamp, and I will place each glass panel in the exact position that it was when they were together in the first place. I use masking tape to hold each panel of glass in the proper position so that I can solder it. I pay special attention to where the two pieces of glass meet, as this particular joint is the most critical in getting it close and tight. As I solder this glass on, I am careful to stay away from the very corners, and also careful not to put the flame directly on the glass. This helps to prevent cracking and breaking. As I work my way around, soldering all sides of this glass and not doing the corners, the glass is slowly heating up. and coming to a temperature where I can actually get into that corner without doing damage. One lamp down, the other one to go. This one is the near side lamp. And we'll just get these glass put on real quick. And the final seam is the frame to the edge of the glass where the door closes. Here I'm soldering in a small piece of tubing, the right size to engage the sliding door latch, so that when the door is closed, it's held tightly. I'll go ahead and tape this door shut just to ensure that everything is tight when the door is shut. And now to solder on those heads that I spent so much time rebuilding. This original steel part just serves to reinforce the neck and hold the head on in another place so that we have two solder joints rather than just one to hold it all together. Just another sign of a quality lamp. When I solder this head on, I'll line up all the seams so that they line up at the back of the lamp, the side facing the carriage. Just one other little thing that quality lamp makers did. Remember I said there were two joints to solder to attach these heads. Well, the other one is down inside the chimney, and the only way to access it is from inside the lamp. It's kind of hard to get to, but we'll get her done. A quick polishing with the flitz again will get rid of all the fingerprints and little bits of flux and so forth that has contacted these silver liners. Shine them back up. Won't be hard to do this time, but it'll make a lot of difference in the end. Another washing just to make sure that there's no flux or anything in between the layers of the lamp or on the outside or on the inside. This is very important before we start the painting. I use compressed air to make sure that I get all the water out of the inside of the lamp and from between the layers of the lamp, just to make sure that we don't have any moisture in this lamp before we start the painting. a final once over with the fine wire brush just to make sure that I get everything cleaned off, especially on the exterior. All little bits of rust or anything that may have developed while I was washing and completing the assembling of these lamps. It'll just make for a better paint job. And I'll repolish all of the brass mounting that's going to be left exposed after the lamps are painted, just to make sure that they're all ready to go. And here I have the lamps finally all finished up and ready to start the painting process. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.